What is the most trouble you got into in your childhood?
What would make you think that Grandma would get in trouble as a child?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got two of them, and I think I mentioned them both before. But when my brothers, there were the two older brothers. I don't know. They were in high school. I think like a junior and maybe a freshman, or because they were pretty close together. And we, the boys went up to the Teedy's house. The Teedy's had all, I think they had three or four boys and one girl, but the girl wasn't involved much. And they had broken down or cleared a motor frame of a car or truck or something. They took everything off of it, so it was just the metal. And there was a seat that was basically a board on the front of it where you sat, and then on the back you kind of could, the side of the truck, you could kind of sit on there. And the older boys would take turns, and the two of us that were younger, we got to go on the ride every time. And the ride was about a 5-acre piece of land, at least that much. And so we would sit on there, and Janice and I were probably maybe 5 and 7, pretty young, maybe even younger than that. Yeah, probably a little younger than that. So you were sitting on there, and they would race around, and they'd go over hills, and so you'd bounce up in the air, and you'd go. And there's no floorboards at all. It's all, you look down and saw the grass, and we're hanging on for dear life, and they'd go around, I mean, as fast as they can, and the bumps and everything that is always on that type of land, pasture land, and bouncing around. And oh, it was just so delightful and so much fun. And we did it like for hours, them till they got tired of messing around with it. And the older boys would take turns driving. So of course they were thrilled to be driving, and they're trying to bounce you off. So that's the fun part for them. So they're going into the bumps, and they're whatever. And oh, it was like the delight of our life. We were just thrilled to be going around there. We just were like, more, let's do more. No, and of course, by the time you're done, you're sore because you're holding on for dear life. And then we got done. I don't know, it seemed like it was hours that we did it, but I don't know how long it was. And the boys told us, of course, not to tell, and of course, I don't think it was me. I think it was Janice that told. Yeah, because she was younger, 2 years younger, and we were thrilled. We're just like, oh, guess what? Quivering with just joy and happiness. And oh my God, my mom just, she was so mad at the boys. And and I remember her screaming and yelling at them, but she was mad at us. Not Janice. Janice was a little princess, so she looked really sweet and didn't get in much trouble. I got in trouble, and the boys were, oh my God, my mom was, I've never seen her so mad. But it was, to us, it was a joy and a delight, and we always remembered it fondly. And when we got together, when the boys were a little, of course, older and going into the military or coming home from there, we always talked about our great and delightful day driving the truck there. And the other one, I can't remember the other one I mentioned. Do you remember the other one?
No, I don't.
That was very very, I might remember another one later.
In school,
I don't think.
in high school?
High school, a joy of that.
No, being in trouble.
Oh, being in trouble. Well, I got in trouble. We got in trouble. That's right. In high school, in the junior, I believe it was the junior year, for some reason, something happened and they were going to cancel the class trip. So it was like for juniors, I believe. And the class trip, I mean, everybody was really looking forward to this. And of course, junior, you're pretty old. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was a junior class trip.
That sounds about right, because most of us were driving.
Yeah, and so they canceled it, and I said, well, why can't we go? That we don't have to have them. We have our own vehicles. We'll go over there and have a nice swim and picnic and do the same thing, only we do it on our own. And so I don't think it was just me that organized it, but there were a couple of other kids that organized it and got food, potato chips and stuff like that. Wasn't the big deal that it was, but originally intended to be. But so we got it all together and we went over there and we had a wonderful time. We had our fire and our swimming and everything, but boy, oh boy, we got in trouble from the school. And of course, who got in the most?
This was on a school day.
Yes. Well, it was going to be the class trip that.
Right, during school.
Yeah. So anyway, we did it anyway, and of course I was the facilitator and everything. So I was the one. I wasn't the only one that put this thing together, but I wasn't like Dale and these other guys that were, the mommy's boys or whatever. They did not get that in trouble. I got in trouble for facilitating this trip over there to Millisylvania, and I got in big trouble. But I don't remember them I don't remember any punishment particularly.
No, they just gave you a big tongue lashing.
Yeah, I think, and warning me how terrible and horrible it was, which I never really understood.
Well, they had to do it, I'm sure.
What was the difference between the kids? We just planned it when they didn't, although we could have left school. I don't know if you remember that, but I thought it was after school, though.
It was the last 2 periods or something like that.
Yeah, and so we went.
I know why
I got in trouble. You know what?
I know why I couldn't go.
Oh.
Because I was working for the school district. And so I couldn't get back in time to get to work.
Oh, okay. Okay. So goody two shoes stayed home while the maverick high schoolers we didn't do anything. We didn't have beer or anything like that. It was just we're doing the same thing we had all planned, and it was disappointing to stop. And then it just occurred, well, why can't we go? We don't need people there. So that was my bad thing.
I never got in trouble very often. I didn't.
Well, you didn't, but you guys, there was this group of kids who got in trouble for anything that this group of kids, the princes, and got in trouble for.
One of the first things that I got in trouble for that I can remember that I knew was a serious offense. The towel racks in our bathroom were glass tubes that went into a little socket on the wall.
Right.
And so that was pretty common then, but I couldn't get the towels off, and I'd pull them and it would pull them out and it would stretch those little sockets. And so after the second or third time, my dad, probably the most stern he was ever with me, he made me come out and watch him fix it and say, if you learn to do this right, I won't have this problem and I won't have to do this. And so I knew that I was in trouble, but I didn't think that there was a better way to do it. And so when we put it back up, he says, here's how you do it. You lift from the top and pull it out over. So by that, I could reach and then do that. So that stuck with me all of my life.
Right.
You know, there's other ways to do this without just pulling on a towel and tearing off the towel rack. And then the other thing, major thing, was we had to be home at 5 o'clock. Because my mom would always worry about us if we weren't home. And this was when we were young, you know, probably up until I started driving. We'd always have to be home at 5 o'clock for dinner time. And she would get real upset and mad at us. And I remember when we were at Christmas, about 11 years old, we got watches, wristwatches. Wind-up wristwatches, so we'd be home at time. And if we were late, we'd always set them back.
That's terrible.
No, well, my watch must be off.
Wow.
And so, but we always got in trouble, and we knew it was a bad sign. But most of the time, the things we were doing were pretty exciting at the time, and so we didn't want to leave. So those are the two things that I really got in trouble for. Being home late and pulling the towel rack off the wall. But other than
Ooh.
that, we had a lot of freedom, and our parents pretty much explained the boundaries to us. So we knew what the boundaries were. And so that was really no problem. And my mom, after I was driving, she never got nervous about us being out. I mean, we could come home at 2 o'clock or so in the morning on a Saturday night or Friday night. And if we were in the summertime sleeping in the bunkhouse, Dad was the only one who knew what time we got home. And he would always have something he wanted us to do at 5 in the morning when he went out to milk. He'd knock on the bunkhouse door. Hey, I need to go check this cow. And so one of us would have to get up and go check.
That's cool.
We'd only been in bed for a couple hours. And he would say, don't care how long you're out, you know, just as long as your attitude's good the next day. So we'd have to get up in the morning and be sweet.
That was kind of a common thing with at that time that you could, if you did want to stay out late or do something, it was you did not have any leftover problems for them in the morning. You had to be happy and ready to go and do what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
That was I think that was really
It was
common.
always expected that no matter what you did, it's not going to have an impact. You can stay up all night if you want, but it won't have an impact on your production the next day.
Right.